We need to completely reframe what's possible, and it should be much faster and much cheaper to be getting to value. That's absolutely what we're starting to see with these tools.
The AI Advantage. Welcome to the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show, and I'm your host, Richard Wray. My mission is to help entrepreneurs understand AI and use it to their advantage. Today's special guest is Gareth Rydon. Gareth has a background in service design where he focused on making things better for people. He co-founded Friyay over a year ago with the goal of spreading the benefits of AI as far and as wide as possible. Today we're talking about AI to augment, not replace, a human-centric approach. Gareth, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here. And Gareth, I'm going to ask you the question I ask all my guests. Where in the world are you?
Well, I've been told that I'm very close to another famous person, a really great podcast. I'm just located in the Gold Coast in Queensland.
Oh, you're very kind. You're very kind. I mean, if you can tell me who this guy is, I'll look him up. So that's all good. But yeah, it's just down the road from me. In fact, I'm there next week, but the listeners don't need to know that one. That's a different story entirely because I'm there for my birthday. Anyway, different story. But Gareth, you have done some very intriguing things over the years. And I know you've got a real kind of culture and history of focus and achievement. So can you give us a bit of your background and how you came to launch Friyay?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for that, Richard. The bit of my background, so I'm a service designer, and I've great intro. I am genuinely obsessed with making things better for people. So that's been my background, has always been around service design and strategy. And when I saw the sort of generative AI wave coming, just really saw it as an opportunity to help even more people. And myself and two other co-founders, we basically went all in because we saw the significance of the opportunity. And that really led us to co-found Friyay it's actually the 1st of August last year. So we've just missed our 1-year anniversary. And yeah,
just had that birthday.
Yes, just had the birthday. But it's amazing how quickly it has gone.
Fantastic. So tell us a little bit about what Friyay actually does.
So the way we talk about what we are is we're Australia's first generative AI studio, and we focus exclusively on helping small and medium businesses in Australia because we really believe that there's a disproportionate opportunity for businesses with generative AI tools to compete and win against large businesses. So we've been very deliberate about how we've structured this, and we've got myself and Charmaine are both service designers. Then we've got Ben, who's an amazing venture builder and an amazing CEO as well. But we've really set it up so that if you're a small business owner and you've got a great idea or you're curious about AI or you don't even know where to start, is we provide all of the tools that you need to either on your journey with AI or actually help your ideas come into reality. So it's subtly different around, we're not doubling down on a single product, rather we're from the humans and the businesses and their ideas and helping life.
Fantastic. Very much along the lines of how I try and approach AI and the communication about it. So can you give me some examples of the sort of work and the sort of ways that you've helped some of these companies?
So I think the one example would be, because say the first thing, the main questions that we get, the two main questions we get from the small and medium businesses is, I don't know where to start and I don't have the time to do it properly in my business. And you, like me, you're running small businesses, being an entrepreneur, we all know how busy you can get, and you just feel busy and you always have all these wonderful ideas, but there just never seems to be enough time in the day. So one example of a great client we worked with, they do fantastic stuff around the sort of the workplace video conferencing space. So if you go into any large corporate and you walk into a video conferencing room and there might be a fantastic setup in there, really big screens, really great tech. But then, so what they do is they supply all that. So the Teams room systems. What we helped them with is they had this great idea where they said, well, the common problem that our clients have is we set up their offices really well. Like they have these fantastic facilities, but every once in a while, technology doesn't work. And I think we were having a conversation before this call, Richard, where I was trying to get
a few technical challenges.
But you imagine that in a corporate context, and you walk into a meeting and you've got someone waiting on the other side of the Teams call. That's expensive if you're not getting in and running that meeting straight away. And quite often you walk in and your screen might not be turning on or your audio might not work. So our client who provides all of that equipment, they wanted to help their customers troubleshoot, because currently what happens is you pick up the phone, you dial a call center, you're trying to get everything fixed straight away. It takes a little bit of time, and all in the meantime, as time's ticking away, people are getting irritated. You're basically burning money for your company. So we work with them. He had this vision about imagine a white glove concierge service all the time for our clients. So we trained an AI agent for his business where when they supply all of these facilities to their clients, they also get this white glove service, which is basically room tech troubleshooting. So you walk into a meeting room, your screen's blank. You don't have to pick up the phone, call an offshore call center, try and work everything out that way. You basically pick up your phone and you start chatting with the assistant and it troubleshoots for you.
That sounds really interesting. How did you actually go about training that? Because obviously there's lots of conversation taking place. Were there transcripts of the conversations that happened before?
That's a really good question. And this goes back to what we were talking about. The title of this podcast is that taking that human-centered approach, we spent a lot of time up front, to your point, understanding what that experience is like when you walk into a room. But the first step was what are common things that go wrong. So we interviewed our clients' tech team as well as some of their clients. What are the common problems? And we identified there were 4 things that 95% of the time go wrong. And with that, we understood that it was things like, my screen won't turn on. I can't hear people on the other end of the call. I can't share my screen. And then in terms of the actual training, it was what we worked out was when we spoke to expert room technicians, is there's quite a standard workflow. And workflow is a bit of a technology. There's quite a standard process that they go through to troubleshoot. And when you drill into it, and I'm not a room technician, so if you have room technicians or people listening on the line, they're probably going to cringe when I butcher my explanation. But they start with the hardware, like is everything plugged in? Well, that classic, when you pick up a phone to an IT call center and say, can you switch your computer on and off again? You start there and then you work through quite a defined structure. You look at the tech and then you look at the software. So what we did was we actually understood that process by interviewing the people that were great at it. And then we started to train the assistant on that process. So if your screen doesn't turn on, here are the steps you take this person through. So that was how we did it. The key for us was people would say we spent a lot of time understanding the human experience and what people did and found out what was key to that experience we focused on. So we experience guide, the AI training or the technology solution.
So what sort of feedback have you had from this particular client so far as results? Have they seen a significant drop in the amount of people making calls to call centers? Have their customers been happier overall?
The main feedback so far is that what this enables our client, it's a completely new revenue stream. So what they were able to do is their clients had their own call centers. So they weren't involved in that experience. This way, they're able to now offer a new solution to their clients. So for our clients' perspective, it's fantastic. Feedback from this fantastic because they're saying we're having much more holistic conversations with our clients, and when we show them, the feedback is often we can't believe someone hasn't already done that. Thank you. Like you are just,
Now that's
and they're not even questioning how much they need to pay because they see the value straight away.
So you said something especially interesting there. They don't question how much they're paying. I'm sure they do at some level, but you've just solved a massive problem for them,
Yep.
a problem that in some ways they may not even realize that they know they've got, and you've given them a new revenue stream, which is an amazing thing to do. My question would be, how long does it take typically to build a solution like the one you described?
This is where I can get quite excited. So let me know if I'm getting a little bit too animated. This is where it's really kind of
No, please go ahead.
This is why we really believe in these solutions for small businesses is this isn't the 12 to 18 to 24 month technology platform upgrade that you hear about and you experience in corporates. To get to like our process, when we do it, we typically, it's about 6 weeks till they can get a working proof of concept that is ready to actually test live with customers. Because that's important. These small businesses they can't invest a huge amount of time, and obviously, their cash flows. They need to see value faster, and that's the power of these tools. Is with the right understanding of what you're trying to augment or the experience you're trying to augment, you can move so much faster than would with traditional technology. So, I don't know if you've ever had the joy of experiencing a Salesforce implementation. No, nothing against Salesforce.
Oh, yes.
I have a lot of great friends that work at Salesforce, but I lived through one at a large Australian bank, and it was an absolute nightmare. It took years and complexity and people and resources, and we're conditioned that that's what it should be. Well, we need to completely reframe what's possible, and it should be much faster and much cheaper to be getting to value. That's absolutely what we're starting to see with these tools.
So when you actually meet people or potential customers, what is the biggest mistake you see them making in their interpretation of what AI can do?
The biggest, that's a
What
really,
most
really
common?
good question. Yeah. Probably the most common mistake, and I talk about this quite a bit, and I'm trying to reframe this narrative in the market. I'm just one person, so good luck with that, Gareth. But AI will not take your job because the current crop of tools are actually not good at a job level. So the biggest mistake a lot of our clients make in their thinking before they execute is, well, I want this job to be done by AI. That's not our experience of where these tools are great. These tools are really great at a task level. So therefore, thinking tasks and how by augmenting tasks, you make your people even better completely changes what the conversation is, because then they're not thinking, oh, this job and this job I need to replace. And as a side point, we make a deliberate choice. We don't work for clients that want to cut a whole team out or replace their staff. We're with clients that see the opportunity and the growth to make the people even better. So with that approach, with them moving away from, oh, it's going to take this to, there are some tasks that's really, really great at. That's a really important distinction. And look at job level, the reason they get stuck is because you can't implement, you can't execute something that's going to be effective and get you value. And they do get sold the dream from other companies out there that, yep, absolutely want to make that. AI can solve for that whole job that you're thinking. The results don't come because it just doesn't work at that level.
That is interesting. There's, AI has been described as the new buzz phrase, and there's certainly a lot of snake oil flowing around. And it's really great to hear you focusing on, how can it enhance people? Have you seen examples where, say, somebody who runs a company, small business, has come along and their team are worried because they think that they're going to get replaced with AI?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's because there's so much noise in the market and it's new. Like anyone who calls, so there's AI's been around for a long time, and by no means I'm a machine learning RP expert. There are some brilliant people that know that space. DTO is incredibly well versed in there, and I'm often blown away about how much he knows. But because of all that noise, and what a lot of people are terming now the disguised layoffs, redundancies that are happening in the market. There are a whole lot of people that are losing their jobs, and executives are covering it up on the view of, it's just a restructure and optimization, and it's not about AI. But people are saying it is, so there's a lot of that. So then people are nervous. But actually, what we're finding is when we drill into it, and our view is we always bring all the team together because we have a conversation about it. We want to understand people's experiences. Most of the staff are already using it. Most of the staff, just not.
Do they realize they're using it though? Is the question.
I've been really surprised at how many businesses don't realize. So there's like this gap. So we speak to some more senior team members, like a chief operating officer. And they're like, yeah, I use it at doing these sort of summarizing my emails, writing some copy for me. But our business, we're not really using it. And then when you speak to their team members, they're like, oh yeah, I'm using it for this, and this. But there's this peculiar mindset. I don't want to admit that I'm using it because it's cheating. I might get in trouble. There's still that really prevailing sort of, I wouldn't call it culture, but that attitude towards it. And what it's doing, it's actually stopping the company from unlocking the value, because if you team and say, let's have an open conversation about this. Where are you using this? How are we using it? So we can learn about the best way for us going forward. It completely changes the culture and unlocks so much more value. But until they have that conversation, it's just a very sort of disconnected, broken experience they're having across the organization.
So why do you think that maybe team members are a little bit afraid to admit that they're using AI? You mentioned before that, it feels like cheating. Is it a case of, well, I'm actually doing my job much more easily now, and I've worked so hard to do these things in the past, but now it's a bit easier to do this and I can do more things? Is it, I'm going to get caught out and called a cheat? Or is it a case of I don't want anybody else to know about this because they might use it as well and look better than me?
There's that last point. I think there's definitely some of that. Like that we see that more in the companies where there's that probably less collaborative culture. It's all like, I need to get ahead by getting ahead of other people rather than getting ahead with people. So in that type of culture, we see that last comment that you made about, I don't want other people to use it because they might get ahead.
So sales organizations is maybe one example.
Yeah, there's a lot more, when there's a lot more of a sales-driven culture. But the other side of things, and I even reflect on my own experience, I went nuts on AI tools as soon as I could get my hands on them. And I went through that experience as well. So I went through a period where I was like, I'm doing all this work and I'm getting recognized for it, but I don't feel okay telling the team that I was using AI to do it. So this is back, early last year, sort of March, April 2023. And I was like, why do I feel that way? And when I reflected on my own experience, it was because my mindset was, well, it's doing my job for me. When I shifted it, say, well, actually, it's not doing my job for me. It's, to your point, it's actually helping me do my job better. Then I felt way more comfortable embracing and talking about it. But when I was like, it's doing my job for me, if I tell people that, why don't they just go, well, why are we hiring you? Let's just get AI to do it. That was the big shift that I had in my own brain. And my hypothesis is that some team members have that view. Like we're currently working with a really great client, one of a really large Australian retailer. And there was that sort of vibe to it around, well, if I start using this, isn't it just doing my job? Like, no, that's why we want to understand what you're great at in your job. And then how can the tool augment the elements so it's still you, but you at scale, you at more quality, you more effective. And that really helps change the feeling that people have around the tool, because they move away from, well, the more I use it to do my job, aren't I just training the organization just to use AI? And they switch me off, and then it goes into this vicious cycle where they see everything in the press, they read everything, and they see the underlying messages in the media about companies just, like Telstra, 2,500 people have still got to be moved on from that organization. So they see that and they're like, oh, that's a risk for me. So we really try to break that mindset. And the best way to do it is we're really clear that we're not working with organizations that want to replace. And we make it really clear. We say, if the client brings us in, when they introduce us in the team meetings and the workshops, they need to be really clear about the why. Like, we've brought Friyay in because their purpose is, as you said, spread the benefits. They want to work with companies that want to augment their staff. That's why we've chosen Friyay to work with. That's a really important message that we agree with our clients as we start to work with them.
And is that part of your approach to differentiate yourself from the other AI companies that are out there? I mean, this reminds me of the old days of the .com boom. And people just like, yes, I'll put .com at the end of my business and suddenly we'll make lots of money. People are doing the same thing with .ai. But it sounds like you're taking a very ethical approach, but also making sure that you're helping people. And so is that the main way that you are helping yourself stand out, or are there other techniques that you use as well?
It is definitely helping us. So it helps us stand out because at the end of the engagement, the feedback we often get from our clients is, we see the value that you took to understand us and our potential and opportunity in the human side. But to be honest, my hope is that it doesn't become a differentiator in the long run. I don't want to be the only company that's thinking this way, because if we are, that's not good. That's not good. There's enough need in the market for people that want support and help to do this, that I really, really hope that more AI startups, product builders like us take this approach, because it's only going to benefit us all. If we don't, we're going to go down a path that we don't think is good, where we've got lots of people out of work. We're not really understanding how these tools are working. They're not really helping us. They're replacing us. That's not the space that we want to be in.
You've mentioned a few times larger organizations, Telstra being one example, where people are being made redundant. And the thing that comes straight to the top is, oh, it's AI. Do you think AI is being unfairly, tagged with, oh, well, that's the reason that you're going, not anything else?
Yeah, I think unfair is the right word. But the reason is that it's because
Well, it'll never answer back, will it? It'll never say, oh, no, it's not, you're not losing your job because of me. The AI won't do that.
Exactly. But I think it's a new, potentially it is a new, really powerful technology that's not fully understood. To your point before, there's a fair bit of snake oil salespeople in the market, and there's a lot of noise in the market. And when people are nervous and unsure, that's the worst time to have misinformation in the market. And I think that there are organizations, and this is one of the reasons we are not wanting to work with larger companies is, and I get it, I've been in reasonably senior roles in quite large organizations. I know the feeling when you've got to go up to a board of directors and you've got to sell a project. Much, much, much easier to sell on the immediate short-term cost savings than we'll invest for this and take a bit longer, but we'll get significant top-line growth. Because that's what we're targeting with generative AI solutions. But in a large corporate, if you're a CFO, that's a much harder message to sell, to go up to your board and say, I want, make out numbers here, I want $5 million to develop an AI-first integration program. We're not going to make anyone redundant, but in 6 years or let's say 3 years' time, it's going to lead to 10 times growth, but it's going to lead to an increase in bottom line expenses for the next 2 years. But
again, going back to what we were saying before, the overarching message here of there's that human focus first, and you're augmenting the team that exists. And of course, there's always that point of the cost of replacing somebody if they leave, because if they, oh no, AI is going to take my job, can be horrific.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. I think we've been asked to come into some other larger companies to clean up a bit of a mess of previous programs of work that they've done, and they've dumped in their own. So insert your company name here, GPT. I should imagine that's the project they've done. So professional service firm, insert the 3 acronyms, then GPT afterward. Is that
probably not knowing what GPT stands for at that point either.
Exactly. And they put something in and they're like, we don't need this team anymore. And then they start running and they're like, oh, wait, we needed all those people. How do we get them back? Because it hasn't worked the way we worked. Or there's a great example of a very large Australian bank, and they were more doing traditional machine learning, robotics, process automation. And they were saying, look, this is amazing. We've been able to automate this entire process, so we no longer need these 150 people. And that was the message to the market. Analysts loved it. Great. Look at the tick up in the share price. But I spoke to a lot of people that were still in that organization, and they're like, everyone at the end of that process that's still there, it's an absolute nightmare, because it's kind of worked, that chunk of the process that they've automated. Things go through lightning speed, but the entire end-to-end is broken now because you get this massive bottleneck, because you still have to do this other process at the end, and that wasn't even thought about. So all the people left behind for those end processes are just drowning, and it's actually leading to net inefficiencies. So
you probably lost a whole lot of knowledge and experience from those people that have gone that could have solved these problems relatively easily.
Absolutely. Hindsight's 2020, but if you were thinking about, what were the tasks that they were undertaking, how do we make them super people? How do you give them superpowers? And you also get that it's such a different conversation internally when you say to your staff, and this is why small and medium businesses to work with, because their challenge is finding great people. And when they find a great person, they're like, I need to hold on to this person because they're amazing. I don't have the time to find. So they're a lot more keen to make that person even better. But the conversation is so different when you have your business founder coming and saying, hey, everyone, I think there's an opportunity to help liberate your time, make your jobs even better, bring joy back to what you do with the smart use of AI. Let's get together and work out how we do that. 2,
everybody wins that.
AI. Exactly. And you get your team members jump in to see, okay, what ideas do I have? How do I contribute to this? Versus, we're going to start working with this AI team and they're going to bring AI into the business. Meet the consultants and tell them what you do. That's a frictionful conversation. And then that's a frictionful, sorry, I'm making up words here, implementation and change program you're going to have to go on later on.
Very interesting. So Gareth, tell me, if there's one piece of information that people should take away from our conversation today, one piece of advice, what would it be?
The one piece of advice I have is stop thinking about AI running at a job level. Think about at a task level. And then next Sunday evening, when you're thinking about your next week at work, think about the tasks you've got to do. If any of those tasks make you sigh and sag, those should be the first tasks that you think about how you might use AI.
That is a really great approach. I think there's lots of people who they get to that point on Sunday night and it's like, oh, I've got to do this on Monday.
I know. It's a disaster, isn't
it? Well, having worked in sales, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about, especially at the end of the quarter. But, Gareth, where can people find you and Friyay, and what's the exciting projects that you've got that they should take a look at?
So, Friyay.ai is our website, but also probably the best spot is follow myself, Gareth Rydon, Charmaine Chan, or Ben Dunn on LinkedIn, because we share heaps. Like, these podcasts are amazing opportunity, Richard, to share this. We also do it regularly on LinkedIn. So every day we're trying to share practical tips for people to get started. So that would be the best place to find us.
Fantastic. Well, Gareth, I love what you're doing. And I think, it's very much along the lines of what I try to achieve with my work with people with AI. So I wish you the best of luck, but I don't think you're going to need it.
Thank you, Richard.
Well, that's a wrap on another awesome guest episode for the Evolvepreneur AI Advantage Show. Just before you go, if you like this episode, we would be very grateful for a 5-star review. Please also consider recommending the show to a friend or two. Make sure you subscribe for future episodes at AIadvantage.show right now. Until next time, I'm Richard Wray, and if you're an entrepreneur, get the AI advantage today.